She never imagined that one split-second mistake on a rainy Atlanta night would cost her everything she'd worked for, or lead her straight into the arms of a millionaire with ice-blue eyes and a fortress around his heart. When Naomi Carter crashed her dying Honda into Ethan Wilder's $250,000 car, she braced for the police, the lawsuits, the end of her life as she knew it. What she got instead was an offer she couldn't refuse, and a contract that would blur every line between employer and employee, between resentment and obsession. But when her toxic ex resurfaces with blackmail and scandal explodes across the internet, Naomi will have to choose: walk away with her dignity intact or fight for a love that society says she doesn't deserve. This is the story of a collision that changed two lives forever and proved that sometimes the best things in life start with a crash. Subscribe and comment below if you've ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere you desperately wanted to be, because this story is about to show you what happens when two broken people refuse to stay in their assigned lanes. The rain started just as Naomi's shift ended. She wiped down the last table at Rosie's diner, her feet aching in her worn sneakers. 12 hours, 2 shifts back to back. Her body felt heavy, like she was carrying stones in her pockets, but the tips had been good tonight. She counted them twice in the back room. $83, enough for groceries and maybe $20 toward the rent she was already late on. "Girl, you look dead on your feet," Mrs. Patel said from behind the counter. Her boss was a small woman with kind eyes and silver streaks in her black hair. "Drive safe, Naomi. That storm's getting worse." "I will. See you tomorrow, Mrs. P." Naomi pushed through the glass door into the night. The air felt thick and wet. Thunder rumbled somewhere far off. She pulled her jacket tighter and ran to her car, a beat-up Honda Civic that was older than her little cousin. The paint had faded to a sad grey-green. The passenger door didn't open anymore, but it was hers. She'd bought it herself 3 years ago, with money she'd saved working doubles just like tonight. She turned the key. The engine coughed, sputtered, then caught. Thank God. The streets of Atlanta gleamed under the streetlights, slick with rain that was just starting to fall harder. Naomi turned on the radio, but static crackled through the speakers. She switched it off. The windshield wipers squeaked as they pushed water back and forth, back and forth. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder, probably Tina, her roommate, asking if she wanted takeout. Naomi reached for it without thinking. That was her first mistake. Her fingers fumbled. The phone slipped. It bounced off her knee and slid under the brake pedal. No, no, no. She looked down for just a second. Just 1 second to see where it went. When she looked up, the red lights were right there. Bright. Close. Too close. She jerked the wheel hard to the left. The Honda fishtailed on the wet road. Time seemed to slow down and speed up all at once. She saw the blur of red metal, heard the crunch of glass and steel, felt the jolt slam through her body as her seatbelt locked tight against her chest. Then everything stopped. Naomi sat frozen, hands still gripping the steering wheel. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Rain drummed on the roof. The engine had died. In front of her, through the cracked windshield, she saw what she'd hit. A car. But not just any car. This car looked like it cost more than every penny she'd earned in her entire life. Sleek, low to the ground, painted a deep glossy red that seemed to glow even in the rain. An Aston Martin, her brain supplied uselessly. She'd seen them in movies, and she'd just crashed her dying Honda right into its rear bumper. "Oh God," she whispered. "Oh God, oh God, oh God." The driver's door of the Aston Martin opened. A man stepped out into the rain, tall, broad shoulders in an expensive suit that was getting soaked. He stood there for a moment, staring at the damage, then slowly turned to face her car. Even through the rain and the darkness, Naomi could see his expression: shock, disbelief, and then anger, cold and sharp as a knife. She forced herself to unbuckle, forced her shaking legs to work. She opened her door and stepped out into the storm. Rain immediately plastered her hair to her face and soaked through her uniform. "I'm so sorry," she called out, walking toward him on legs that felt like jelly. "I'm so sorry. I didn't—" My phone dropped and I looked down for just a second. "You looked down." His voice was flat, hard. While driving, up close she could see him better. He was maybe 30, with dark hair that rain had slicked back from his forehead. His eyes were a pale color, gray or blue she couldn't tell in the dim light. His jaw was set tight. Everything about him screamed money and power and control. Everything about her screamed broke waitress who just ruined her life. "I know," she said quickly. "I know it was stupid. I'm sorry. I'll pay for the damage. I have insurance. It's not great insurance, but I have it, and..." Do you have any idea what this car costs? He gestured at the Aston Martin. His voice was quiet, but somehow that made it worse, like he was holding back something big and dangerous. Naomi felt tears burning behind her eyes. She would not cry. She wouldn't. No. But I'll find a way to make it right, I promise. He laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. You'll find a way. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Please. The word came out small, broken. Please, I really am sorry. I work 2 jobs. I can't afford... She stopped. Her throat felt too tight. He looked at her then, really looked at her for the first time. His eyes moved over her stained uniform, her cheap sneakers, her soaking wet hair. Something flickered across his face. Not sympathy exactly, more like recognition. Like he was seeing a problem he needed to solve. What's your name? He asked. Naomi Carter. Ethan Wilder. He didn't offer his hand. Stay here. The police arrived 15 minutes later. By then, Naomi was shaking. From cold or fear or both, she couldn't tell. A young officer took her statement while his partner talked to Ethan. She explained about the phone, about the rain, about how she hadn't seen him stopped in front of her. Any injuries? The officer asked. No, I'm fine. Is Mr. Wilder okay? He's fine, but that's a lot of damage to a very expensive vehicle, ma'am. The officer's voice was kind but firm. Your insurance company is going to need to cover this. Naomi's stomach dropped. Her insurance barely covered anything. The deductible alone was more than she had in her account, and if they decided she was at fault, which she was, her rates would skyrocket. She'd never be able to afford it. She watched Ethan talking to the other officer. He stood straight and still, like the rain didn't bother him at all, like nothing bothered him. He pointed at something on his car, then at hers. The officer nodded, writing things down. Finally, Ethan walked over to her. The officer with Naomi stepped back, giving them space. I'm not pressing charges, Ethan said. Relief flooded through her so fast she felt dizzy. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll work with the insurance company and... No, he cut her off. Not insurance. She blinked water out of her eyes. What? You'll repay me yourself in work. Naomi stared at him. I don't understand. You obviously can't afford to fix my car. Your insurance won't cover a fraction of it. So instead, you'll work for me. Consider it a payment plan. Something cold settled in her chest. Work for you? Doing what? I'll figure that out. He pulled out a business card and held it out to her. Come to this address tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll discuss the terms. She didn't take the card. I already have 2 jobs. Then you'll quit one of them. His voice was calm, certain, like he was used to people doing exactly what he said. Trust me, Miss Carter. This is better than the alternative. The alternative being what? Prison. Anger sparked through her fear. I said I was sorry. I said I'd pay. You can't just buy me like I'm some kind of... I can't? He raised one eyebrow. The look on his face made her want to scream. The damage to my car is roughly $30,000. Can you pay that? The number hit her like a punch. $30,000. She couldn't pay that in 10 years. I didn't think so, Ethan said when she stayed silent. He pressed the card into her hand. 9 a.m., don't be late. He turned and walked back to his car. The police were already putting out flares and calling for a tow truck. Naomi stood there in the rain, the business card getting wet in her palm, and watched him make a phone call, probably to someone who would bring him another car. Someone rich people called when they needed things fixed. Miss, the officer touched her shoulder gently. You're free to go. Just make sure you file a report with your insurance company. Right. Yes, thank you. She climbed back into her Honda. The front end was crumpled, but the engine started after a few tries. She drove home slowly, carefully, her hand still shaking on the wheel. The apartment was dark when she got there. Tina must already be asleep. Good. Naomi didn't want to explain tonight, didn't want to say the words out loud and make them real. She peeled off her wet uniform and stood in the hot shower until the water ran cold. But even then, she couldn't stop shaking. The next morning arrived too fast and too bright. Naomi woke to her phone buzzing. 7 missed calls, all from the diner. Her heart sank. She called Mrs. Patel back. Naomi, honey, I need you to come in early today. Mrs. Patel's voice sounded strained. The district manager wants to talk to you. About what? A pause. Just come in, sweetie. The district manager was a thin man in a cheap tie who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He sat in Mrs. Patel's tiny office with a folder open in front of him. Miss Carter, thank you for coming in. He didn't sound thankful. I'll get right to the point. We've received a complaint about an incident you were involved in last night. Naomi's mouth went dry. A complaint? From who? That's confidential, but it involves property damage and potential legal liability. Given the circumstances, we feel it's best if we part ways. You're firing me? She looked at Mrs. Patel, who wouldn't meet her eyes. Mrs. P? I'm sorry, Naomi, her boss said quietly. They're saying it's a liability issue. If someone sues the company because you were driving after a shift here, I didn't do anything wrong at the diner. It was an accident. It was raining and... The decision has been made, the district manager said, standing up. We'll mail your final paycheck. Mrs. Patel will walk you out. Just like that, it was over. 6 years of working at Rosie's. 6 years of building relationships with regulars, of learning the menu backward and forward, of covering shifts when people called in sick. Gone because some rich man in an expensive car had made a phone call. Mrs. Patel hugged her at the back door. I tried to fight for you, she whispered. I really did. I know. Naomi's voice came out flat, empty. It's okay. It wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. She drove home in the bright morning sunlight. Her apartment building looked shabbier in the daytime, paint peeling, concrete cracking, weeds growing through the parking lot. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling harder than the last. Tina was sitting on their worn couch, eating cereal and watching TV. She looked up when Naomi walked in. You look terrible. What happened? Everything came out then. The crash, the car, Ethan Wilder and his cold eyes and his business card, getting fired, all of it. Tina's expression went from concern to anger in about 3 seconds. He got you fired? That devil in a suit got you fired? I don't know if it was him. The district manager said someone complained, but of course it was him. Tina set down her bowl with a sharp click. Rich people don't like being inconvenienced, so he's making you pay. What does he want? For you to work for him? He said he'd explain today. I'm supposed to go to his office at 9. Don't go. I have to. Naomi sank down on the couch beside her friend. Tina, his car costs $30,000 to fix. $30,000. If I don't do this, he'll probably sue me for everything. I'll lose what little I have. You're not a slave. You don't have to... A knock on the door cut her off. 3 sharp raps. Both women froze. You expecting someone? Tina whispered. No. Another knock. Harder this time. Miss Carter? I know you're in there. Naomi's whole body went cold. That voice. She knew that voice. She stood slowly and walked to the door. Through the peephole, she saw him. Ethan Wilder, looking just as perfectly put together as he had last night, despite the fact that it was barely 9 in the morning and she'd just been fired because of him. She opened the door. What are you doing here? You didn't come to my office. He checked his watch. A watch that probably cost more than her rent. It's 9:17, you're late. I got held up. I was coming. Were you? He looked past her into the apartment. His gaze moved over the cramped living room, the sagging couch, the water stain on the ceiling that their landlord kept promising to fix. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or judgment. Tina appeared beside Naomi. She doesn't have to go anywhere with you. Ethan's attention shifted to her. And you are, her roommate, her friend, someone who actually cares about her. Tina crossed her arms. Whatever game you're playing, she's not interested. It's not a game. His voice stayed level, calm. It's a business arrangement. Miss Carter damaged my property. She's going to repay me through work. Simple as that. Nothing about this is simple, Naomi said. She was so tired. Tired of being scared, tired of being broke, tired of men like him treating people like her as problems to be solved. You got me fired from my job. I did no such thing. Someone complained to my work about last night, about liability. Who else would? It wasn't me. He actually looked offended. I don't waste my time with petty revenge. Then who? I don't know and I don't care. He pulled out a folded paper from inside his jacket. This is a contract. 6 months of work as my personal assistant. In exchange, I'll consider the debt paid. You'll earn twice what you made at that diner. You'll keep your second job if you want. And when the 6 months are up, you walk away clean. No lawsuits, no collection agencies, no ruined credit. He held out the paper. Naomi stared at it like it might bite her. What's the catch? Tina demanded. No catch. She works. I pay her. The debt is settled. Why? Naomi asked. Why would you do this? You could just sue me. You could... Because I don't need another lawsuit clogging up my legal department. He sounded tired now, almost human. Because this is simpler. Take the contract. Read it. Think about it. My number's on the card I gave you. You have 24 hours to decide. He turned to leave, then stopped. looked back at her. For what it's worth, I didn't call your employer, but I can make a phone call right now to help you get your job back if you prefer that route instead. You can do that, a slight smile. I can do a lot of things, Miss Carter. The question is what you want me to do. He left without waiting for an answer. Naomi closed the door and leaned against it. Her hands were shaking again. Don't trust him, Tina said immediately. Girl, this smells wrong. Rich men don't help people like us, they use people like us. I know. Naomi looked at the contract in her hand. The paper felt expensive, heavy. But what choice do I have? Later that afternoon, she found the eviction notice taped to their door. 30 days to pay the back rent or get out. She sat on her bed and cried for the first time since she was a little girl. The address on Ethan Wilder's business card led to a glass tower in downtown Atlanta. The building reached up into the sky like it was trying to touch the clouds. Naomi stood on the sidewalk and stared at it, her stomach twisting into knots. She'd spent all night reading the contract. Every word, twice. It seemed straightforward. Too straightforward. 6 months. Personal assistant duties. Salary that made her head spin. No weird clauses about owing him her firstborn or anything like that. Just work. Just business. But nothing felt simple where Ethan Wilder was concerned. She'd called the number on his card that morning. Told him she'd come by to talk. He'd said to ask for him at the front desk. That was it. No emotion. No gloating. Just information. Now she was here, wearing the only professional clothes she owned. Black pants and a white blouse that Tina had ironed for her. She'd pulled her hair back, put on the little makeup she had, tried to look like someone who belonged in a building like this. The lobby was all marble and glass and polished metal. Her footsteps echoed on the floor. A woman sat behind a sleek desk, typing on a computer with nails so perfect they looked fake. Can I help you? The woman's smile was professional, but cold. I'm here to see Ethan Wilder. My name is Naomi Carter. The woman's eyebrows went up just a fraction. One moment. She picked up a phone, spoke quietly, then nodded and hung up. Mr. Wilder will see you now. Take the elevator to the 25th floor. Someone will meet you there. Naomi's legs felt weak as she walked to the elevator. The doors opened with a soft ding. Inside, everything was mirrors and brass. She caught sight of herself, small, nervous, completely out of place. The elevator shot upward so fast her stomach dropped. 25 floors in what felt like seconds. The doors opened onto another lobby. This one smaller but even more expensive looking. A young man in a crisp shirt waited there. Miss Carter, follow me, please. He led her down a hallway lined with glass-walled offices. People worked at sleek desks with multiple computer screens. Everyone looked busy and important, and like they knew exactly what they were doing. Then they reached a door at the end of the hall. The man knocked once and opened it. Mr. Wilder, Miss Carter is here. Thank you, James. Naomi stepped inside, and the door closed behind her. The office was huge. One entire wall was floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. She could see for miles. Cars looked like toys on the streets below. The furniture was all clean lines and dark wood. Everything was perfectly arranged, perfectly organized, perfectly controlled. Ethan stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, looking out at the view. He'd traded yesterday's suit for one in charcoal gray. In this light, she could see his eyes were blue, cold blue, like winter ice. Miss Carter, he turned to face her. I wasn't sure you'd come. I almost didn't. Honesty felt safer than lies here. But I need the money. At least you're honest about it. He gestured to a chair in front of his desk. Sit. It wasn't a request. Naomi sat. The chair was leather, soft, expensive. She'd never sat in anything so comfortable, and still felt so uncomfortable at the same time. Ethan moved to his desk, but didn't sit. He leaned against it, arms crossed, studying her. Did you read the contract? Yes. Any questions? Just one. She made herself meet his eyes. Why me? Why offer this job to someone who just crashed into you? Someone you don't know at all? He was quiet for a moment. Then, do you know what I do, Miss Carter? Your card says you're the CEO of, she tried to remember, Wilder Tech Solutions. That's right. We develop software for businesses, security systems mostly. It's very successful, very profitable. He paused. It's also very boring. She blinked. Boring? Everyone around me wants something. Money, connections, access to power. His voice was flat, tired. They smile and say the right things and stab each other in the back the moment it's convenient. You crashed into my car by accident. You apologized. You didn't make excuses or try to manipulate your way out of it. You were just honest. So you're hiring me because I was honest? I'm hiring you because I need someone who isn't playing games, someone who knows what real work looks like. He straightened up. 6 months. That's all I'm asking. If you hate it, you can leave after the debt is paid. If you're good at it, we'll talk about making it permanent. Permanent. A real job. Not waiting tables or scraping by on tips. A salary. Benefits, probably. The kind of stability she'd never had. But working for him. This cold, controlled man who looked at her like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. What would I be doing exactly? The contract just says, personal assistant duties. Managing my schedule. Handling correspondence. Organizing my meetings, running errands when I need things done. He shrugged. Whatever needs doing that day. I've never done office work before. You'll learn. He moved around the desk and pulled out a drawer, retrieved another paper. This is your first task if you accept. I need someone to organize a charity gala in 3 months. There's a list of vendors, a budget, and a venue already booked. I just need someone to handle the details. He slid the paper across the desk to her. Naomi picked it up. The numbers made her dizzy. This was more money than she'd seen in her entire life, just for one party. I can't do this, she said quietly. I don't know how to. Then you'll figure it out. His voice was firm, but not cruel. Miss Carter, I'm not asking you to do the impossible. I'm asking you to try. Everything you need is in that folder. Call the vendors, confirm the details, check off the list. It's work, just work. She looked at the paper, then at him, then at the windows showing the city spread out below. From up here, everything looked small, manageable, like problems were just tiny dots that could be solved with the right perspective. Maybe this could work. Maybe she could do this. If I say yes, she started slowly, I need something from you too. His eyebrows rose. You're negotiating? I need boundaries. She lifted her chin. I'm not your servant. I'm not your property. I'm an employee. That means respect. That means treating me like a person, not like something you bought. For the first time since she'd met him, Ethan Wilder smiled. It was small, almost hidden, but real. Deal. He held out his hand. Welcome to Wilder Tech, Miss Carter. She looked at his hand. Clean, strong. The hand of someone who'd never worked a double shift or worried about rent, but also the hand of someone offering her a way out. She took it. His grip was firm, warm, gone too quickly. So you start Monday, he said. 9 a.m. sharp, don't be late. I won't. As she left his office, Naomi realized her hands had stopped shaking. She felt something strange, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, maybe, just maybe, this would work out after all. But as the elevator took her back down to the lobby, she couldn't shake the feeling that she just made a deal with the devil. A very handsome, very rich devil in an expensive suit. Only time would tell if she'd made the right choice. Monday morning came too fast. Naomi stood in front of her closet, staring at the 3 outfits she owned that could pass for professional. Black pants and white blouse, she'd already worn that. Navy skirt and grey sweater. Too warm for September. That left the dark blue dress Tina had given her last year. It was simple, clean. It would have to do. She pulled her hair back into a neat bun and looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection stared back, eyes wide with nerves. You can do this, she whispered. Tina knocked on her bedroom door. You ready? As ready as I'll ever be. Her roommate smiled, but worry showed in her eyes. Text me if he tries anything weird. I'll come get you. He's not going to try anything, it's just work. Uh-huh. Just work with the man who got you fired and then hired you. That's totally normal. Naomi grabbed her purse, an old thing with a broken zipper that she duct-taped shut. I have to try, Tina. We need the money. You know we do. Tina's face softened. She pulled Naomi into a hug. I know. Just be careful, okay? Rich people play by different rules. The drive downtown felt longer than it should. Naomi's Honda coughed and sputtered at every red light. She'd gotten it looked at over the weekend. The mechanic said it would cost $800 to fix properly. $800 she didn't have. She parked in the visitor section of the Wilder Tech garage and took the elevator up. The receptionist from before, the one with the perfect nails, looked up and smiled. It was warmer this time, more real. Good morning, Miss Carter. Mr. Wilder is expecting you, 25th floor. Thank you. The elevator ride up felt different today. She wasn't a visitor anymore. She was an employee. She belonged here. Sort of. James met her at the elevator again. Morning, ready for your first day? I think so. Don't worry. Mr. Wilder seems tough, but he's fair. Just do your work and you'll be fine. He led her down the hallway, past the glass offices. Your desk is right outside his office. That way you're close if he needs anything. Her desk. She had a desk. It was sleek and modern with a new computer already set up, a leather chair, a phone, pens in a metal holder, everything clean and organized and waiting for her. Mr. Wilder left you a list of tasks for today, James said, pointing to a folder on the desk. He's in a meeting right now, but he'll be back around 10. If you need anything, I'm 3 doors down. Thank you. Really. James grinned. Welcome to the team. Naomi sat down slowly in her new chair. It was comfortable. Too comfortable. She felt like she was sinking into a cloud. She opened the folder. Inside was a typed list in neat, precise handwriting. 1. Confirm catering for October 15th gala. 2. Review vendor contracts. Highlight any issues. 3. Schedule my meetings for next week. 4. Order lunch at 12:30. Preferences attached. 5. Organize files in cabinet. System explained on page 2. 5 tasks. They looked simple enough. She could do this. She started with the phone calls. The caterer was friendly and professional. Everything was confirmed. The florist needed a deposit, which she made a note to ask Ethan about. The venue coordinator wanted to discuss table arrangements. By the time 10 o'clock came, she'd checked off 2 tasks and was halfway through the 3rd. Ethan's office door opened. He stepped out, phone pressed to his ear, talking in that calm, controlled voice. He glanced at her, gave a small nod, and kept walking. Not friendly, but not cold either. Just busy. She went back to work. At 12:30, she ordered his lunch, a salad with grilled chicken, dressing on the side, and black coffee. The list said he was picky about restaurants. She called the place he'd specified and had it delivered. When the food arrived, she knocked on his door. Come in. He sat at his desk, typing on his computer, barely looking up. Just leave it there. She set the bag down on the small table by the window. The florist needs a deposit for the gala, $5,000. That got his attention. He stopped typing. Already handled. Anything else? The venue wants to meet about table arrangements. Should I schedule that? Yes. Next Thursday if they're available. He went back to typing. And Miss Carter? Yes? Good work this morning. Keep it up. It was small. Just 3 words, but warmth spread through her chest like sunshine breaking through clouds. Thank you. She left his office and closed the door quietly behind her. The first week passed in a blur of phone calls and emails and learning how everything worked. Ethan was demanding but not cruel. He expected things done right and done fast. But when she made mistakes, and she made plenty, he corrected her calmly, explained what she should have done, gave her a chance to fix it. By Friday, she felt almost comfortable, almost like she belonged. That afternoon, she was filing papers in the storage room when she heard raised voices. She peeked around the corner. 2 men stood near the elevators. One was older, maybe 60, in a suit that looked even more expensive than Ethan's. He had silver hair and sharp eyes. The other was Ethan. This is unacceptable, the older man said. His voice was cold, hard. You're the CEO of this company. You can't waste time playing babysitter to some waitress. Naomi's stomach dropped. They were talking about her. She's my assistant, not a waitress, Ethan replied. His voice stayed level. And she's doing excellent work. She's a distraction. The board is asking questions. Then tell the board to focus on profits, not my staffing choices. Ethan's jaw tightened. I know what I'm doing, Father. Father. That was Ethan's father. Do you? The older man stepped closer. Or are you making decisions based on guilt? She damaged your car, and now you're trying to save her. That's not business, Ethan. That's weakness. It's done. She stays. For now. His father's voice dropped lower, colder. But remember, sentiment has no place in our world. The moment she becomes a liability, she goes. That's how we survive. He walked past Ethan to the elevator without another word. Ethan stood there for a long moment, hands in his pockets, staring at nothing. His shoulders were tense. His face was blank, but his eyes looked tired. Naomi slipped back into the storage room before he could see her. Her heart pounded. Guilt? Liability? What did that mean? She tried to focus on filing, but the words kept repeating in her head. She wasn't just an employee. She was a problem, a weakness, something Ethan had to defend. The thought made her feel small, exposed, like she was standing on a stage with everyone watching, waiting for her to fail. That evening, as she was packing up to leave, Ethan came out of his office. Miss Carter. She looked up. Yes? There's a situation tomorrow. One of my gardeners had an accident at my home. He needs someone to drive him to the hospital for a follow-up appointment. I'd normally have my regular driver do it, but he's unavailable. Would you be willing to help? Of course. What time? 9 a.m. I'll text you the address. He paused. It's not in your job description. You can say no. I don't mind helping. And she meant it. Is he okay? Something flickered across Ethan's face. Surprise, maybe. He fell from a ladder, broke his arm. He's healing, but he's older. It's been difficult for him. I'll take good care of him. Ethan nodded once. Thank you. Saturday morning, Naomi drove to the address Ethan had sent. She expected a house. Maybe something nice in the suburbs. What she found was a penthouse. The entire top floor of a glass building that overlooked the city. The building itself was modern and cold, all sharp angles and reflective surfaces. Even from the street, she could see the balcony wrapping around the top floor. A security guard let her into the private elevator. It opened directly into Ethan's home. The space took her breath away, floor-to-ceiling windows on every side. The city spread out below like a postcard. Inside, everything was white and grey and perfectly arranged. Modern furniture, expensive art on the walls. Not a thing out of place. It was beautiful. It was also the loneliest place she'd ever seen. Miss Carter, a small man with white hair and a cast on his arm, shuffled toward her. I'm Roberto. Mr. Wilder said you'd take me to my appointment. That's right. Are you ready to go? Yes. Let me get my coat. As Roberto went to get his things, Naomi wandered toward the windows. From up here, the whole world looked tiny, distant, safe. Impressive, isn't it? She jumped. Ethan stood in a doorway she hadn't noticed, wearing jeans and a simple grey t-shirt. He looked different without the suit. Younger, more human. It's beautiful, she said honestly. But it must be strange living so far from everything. Strange how? I don't know. Lonely, I guess. She turned to face him. Do you ever miss being close to people? To noise and life and all the messy stuff? He was quiet for a moment. Sometimes. Roberto came back with his coat. Ethan walked them to the elevator. Drive carefully, he said. Roberto is important to me. The appointment took an hour. Naomi sat with Roberto in the waiting room and they talked. He told her about his family in Colombia, about his 3 grandchildren, about how he'd worked for the Wilder family for 15 years. Mr. Ethan is a good man, Roberto said softly. Complicated, but good. He seems very controlled. Yes, since his mother died, he's been like this. Closed off, afraid to feel too much. Roberto looked at her with knowing eyes. Maybe you can help him remember how to be warm again. On the drive back, Naomi thought about that. About Ethan alone in his glass tower. About the way his father had talked about sentiment like it was a disease. When they got back to the penthouse, Ethan was on the balcony. He came in when he heard them. How did it go? Good, Roberto said. The doctor says I'm healing well, thanks to Miss Naomi here. She's very kind. Yes, Ethan said quietly, looking at her. She is. Roberto excused himself to rest. Naomi started to leave too, but Ethan stopped her. Wait, there's something I need to tell you. Her heart skipped. Okay. When Roberto fell, I wasn't here. I was at the office working late. My security called me and I came home, but... He stopped, rubbed his face. My mother died in a fall from a ladder in our old house. I was 17. I found her. The words hung in the air between them. I'm so sorry, Naomi whispered. When I heard Roberto fell the same way, his voice broke, just for a second. Then he pulled himself together. I couldn't lose someone else like that, so I hired extra help, made sure he had everything he needed. Maybe it's too much. Maybe I'm too involved. But I can't help it. Naomi took a step toward him. That's not weakness, Mr. Wilder. That's caring. That's being human. He looked at her then. Really looked at her. His blue eyes weren't cold anymore. They were storm-filled, vulnerable, raw. My father would disagree. Then maybe your father is wrong? The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Maybe. They stood there for a moment, the city sprawling below them, sunlight streaming through the windows. Thank you for helping today, he said finally. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She meant it. Roberto is sweet. And you're not as cold as you pretend to be. That got a real smile. Small, but real. Don't tell anyone. I have a reputation to maintain. She laughed. It felt good. Natural. Like maybe they were becoming something more than boss and employee. Something closer to friends. But as she drove home that afternoon, she couldn't shake the memory of his eyes. The pain hidden there. The loneliness. Ethan Wilder had everything money could buy, but he had no one to share it with. Monday started normal enough. Naomi arrived at 8:50, like always. She organized Ethan's schedule, confirmed his meetings, ordered his lunch. Around 3, she went to his office to drop off some contracts. The door was slightly open. She heard his voice. "She's under my control now. 6 months, and the problem is solved." Naomi froze. "No, Father, I'm handling it," Ethan continued. "She does what I say when I say it. That's the arrangement. Control, problem, arrangement." The words cut like knives. She backed away from the door. Her hands shook. Her chest felt tight. All of it. The job, the kindness, the moment on his balcony. It was all fake. She was just a problem he was managing, a liability he was controlling. She thought of his father's words. "Sentiment has no place in our world." She'd been stupid, so stupid, thinking maybe he cared, thinking maybe she mattered. She was nothing to him, just a dent in his car that needed fixing. Naomi walked back to her desk, grabbed her purse, opened the drawer, and pulled out the badge James had given her on her first day. Then she marched to Ethan's office and shoved the door open. He was still on the phone. His eyebrows went up when he saw her. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, hanging up. "Miss Carter?" "What?" She threw the badge on his desk. "I quit." "What?" "I quit. I'm done. Find someone else to control." Her voice shook, but she kept going. "I heard you. On the phone. Talking about me like I'm some kind of project. Like I'm something you can manage and fix and solve." He stood up. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Tears burned in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You don't see me as a person. You never did. I'm just a problem you're handling. A liability. Your father was right about me. My father knows nothing about you. He knows I don't belong in your world. And he's right." She backed toward the door. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Wilder, but I won't be someone's charity case. I won't be controlled." "Naomi." It was the first time he'd used her first name. It made everything hurt more. She turned and ran, past her desk, past the glass offices where people looked up, curious, into the elevator. The doors closed, and she finally let the tears fall. She'd been such a fool. Thinking maybe, just maybe, someone like him could see someone like her as an equal. The elevator reached the lobby. She walked through, ignoring the receptionist's confused, "Miss Carter?" She got in her car and drove. She didn't know where she was going. She just drove until the tears stopped and her breathing evened out, and the city lights started to blur in the growing darkness. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Please come back. Let me explain." She deleted it. Another text came. "I wasn't talking about you the way you think I was." She deleted that one too. By the time she got home, there were 6 more messages. She turned off her phone. Tina took one look at her face and pulled her into a hug. "What happened?" "You were right," Naomi whispered. "Rich people do play by different rules, and I'm not part of their game." The next morning, Naomi went back to Rosie's diner. Not to work. Mrs. Patel had made it clear she couldn't hire her back, but she needed to be somewhere familiar, somewhere that felt safe. She sat in a booth in the corner and nursed a cup of coffee she couldn't afford. The bell above the door chimed. Naomi didn't look up. Naomi Carter. She knew that voice. Her whole body tensed. Ethan Wilder stood by her booth, still in his business suit, looking completely out of place in the worn diner. Every eye in the restaurant turned to stare. "What are you doing here?" she asked quietly. "I came to apologize." He didn't sit, just stood there, hands at his sides. "May I?" She wanted to say no, wanted to tell him to leave, but Mrs. Patel was watching from behind the counter, and making a scene would only make things worse. "Fine." He slid into the booth across from her. Up close, he looked tired, like he hadn't slept. "Good. You misunderstood what you heard yesterday," he started. "I heard you say I was under your control, that I was a problem you were solving. I was talking to my father. He called to tell me the board was concerned about my decision to hire you. He wanted me to fire you." Ethan's voice was low but steady. "I told him you were my employee, and I had the situation under control, that in 6 months, when your debt was paid, the whole issue would be resolved. I wasn't calling you a problem, I was defending you." Naomi stared at him. "That's not what it sounded like." "I know, and I'm sorry you heard it that way. I'm sorry I didn't explain myself better." "I'm sorry." He stopped, took a breath. "I'm sorry for a lot of things, but not for hiring you. That's the one thing I'm not sorry about." The words hung between them. Around them, the diner had gone quiet. Everyone was listening. "Why?" Naomi asked. "Why does it matter? You could hire anyone, someone with experience, someone who fits better in your world." Because you're the first person in years who's treated me like a human being instead of a bank account. His blue eyes met hers. Honest. Open. Because you called me out when I was wrong. Because you helped Roberta without being asked. Because you're real, Naomi. And in my world, real is hard to find. Mrs. Patel appeared at their table. Everything okay here, honey? Naomi looked at her former boss, at Ethan, at all the people watching. I don't know, she said honestly. Then let me prove it to you, Ethan said. Come back, give me another chance. If I mess up again, you can walk away. No debt, no strings. I'll even write it into the contract. You'd do that? I'd do a lot of things to make this right. Naomi thought about the eviction notice at home, about her empty bank account, about Tina picking up extra shifts to cover Naomi's half of the rent. She needed this job. But more than that, and she hated admitting it, she wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe someone like him could see someone like her as more than a charity case. Okay, she said finally, but things have to change. No more secrets. No more phone calls where you talk about me like I'm not a person. Agreed. He held out his hand. Partners? She looked at his hand, then took it. Employer and employee, that's all. That's all, he agreed. But the way he held her hand, gentle and warm and maybe a little too long, made her think both of them were lying. The days that followed were strange, different. Ethan didn't treat her like just an assistant anymore. He asked her opinion on things, explained decisions he was making, included her in meetings where she took notes, but sometimes, more and more, offered ideas that he actually listened to. She reorganized his schedule to be more efficient. He thanked her. She caught mistakes in a vendor contract. He praised her attention to detail. She suggested a new catering company for the gala that was better and cheaper. He approved it immediately. Slowly, carefully, they were becoming something new, something she didn't have a name for yet. One evening they worked late on gala preparations. When she finally finished confirming the last details, it was almost 8. You hungry? Ethan asked, looking up from his computer. Starving. There's a Thai place that delivers. You like Thai food? I've never had it. He stared at her. Never. Mr. Wilder, I've been eating ramen and peanut butter sandwiches for the past 5 years. Fancy food wasn't really an option. Something shifted in his expression. Sadness, maybe. Or shame. Then we're fixing that tonight. He ordered enough food for 4 people. When it arrived, they spread it out on the small table by his office window and ate straight from the containers. Pad Thai and curry and spring rolls and things Naomi couldn't pronounce but tasted like heaven. This is amazing, she said around a mouthful of noodles, then realized she was talking with her mouth full and felt her face heat. Sorry, that's not professional. We're eating dinner, Naomi. Not negotiating a contract, you can relax. The way he said her name, soft and warm, made something flutter in her chest. They talked while they ate, about nothing important, about favorite movies and worst jobs and places they wanted to visit someday. He told her about learning to code as a kid. She told him about raising her little sister after their mom died. You were how old? He asked. 19. Sarah was 12. Mom had a heart attack at work. Just gone. No warning. Naomi pushed rice around her container. Child Services wanted to take Sarah, but I fought for custody. Worked 3 jobs to keep us together until she graduated high school. Where is she now? College? Full scholarship to Georgia State. Studying to be a teacher. Pride filled her voice. She's the smart one in the family. Ethan was quiet for a moment. You raised her while working 3 jobs and you think she's the smart one. She didn't crash her car into a millionaire. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was warm and genuine and completely unexpected. Fair point. They finished eating in comfortable silence. As Naomi packed up the empty containers, she realized something. She'd had fun tonight. Real, honest fun. Not worrying about money or rent or what came next, just enjoying the moment. It felt dangerous, like standing too close to the edge of something high. Thank you for dinner, she said. I should get going. Naomi, he stood too. They were close now. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and clean. I'm glad you came back. Me too, she admitted. The air between them felt charged, electric, like something was about to happen that would change everything. But then his phone rang. The moment broke. He answered it with an apologetic look, and she slipped out of his office before whatever that was could become real. 2 weeks later, Ethan asked her to come to the charity gala. I have done all the work to organize it, he said. You should be there to see it come together. I don't have anything to wear to something like that. He slid an envelope across her desk. Consider it a bonus for all the extra hours you've put in. Inside was more money than she'd made in a month at the diner. Mr. Wilder, I can't. It's your money. You earned it. Buy a dress. Get your hair done. Whatever you want. He smiled. Just be there, please. The night of the gala, Naomi almost didn't go. She stood in her bedroom looking at the dress she'd bought, simple and navy blue, the nicest thing she'd ever owned, and felt like a fraud. You look beautiful, Tina said from the doorway. Stop overthinking it. What if I don't fit in? What if people look at me and know I don't belong? Then they're idiots. Tina came over and fixed Naomi's hair. You belong wherever you decide to be. Now go, have fun, and text me if Mr. Perfect tries anything. The gala was at a hotel downtown. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and white flowers, and people in expensive clothes. Naomi felt small walking in, invisible, until she saw Ethan. He stood near the bar, talking to a group of older men in suits. But when he saw her, he stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went wide. He excused himself and walked straight to her. You came. You asked me to. You look. He stopped. Started again. That dress is perfect. She felt her face warm. Thank you. He offered his arm. Let me introduce you to some people. The night passed in a blur of names and faces. Ethan kept her close, introducing her as my invaluable assistant, or the woman who made tonight possible. Some people were kind. Others looked at her like she was a stain on the carpet. One woman in particular, tall and thin with diamonds dripping from her neck, looked Naomi up and down with cold eyes. So you're Ethan's new assistant, she said. How quaint. Naomi is excellent at her job, Ethan said smoothly. I'm sure she is. The woman's smile was sharp. Tell me, dear, did you go to college? No, Mum. Oh, well, the woman's tone said everything her words didn't. How nice that Ethan is giving you this opportunity. Sort of like charity, isn't it? Naomi's face burned. She opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. Ethan stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but hard as steel. Naomi has more intelligence, grace, and capability than half the people in this room, including you, Patricia, if you'll excuse us. He guided Naomi away, his hand warm on her back. I'm sorry, she whispered. I shouldn't have come. Don't apologize. She's a bitter woman who inherited her money and thinks that makes her superior. He stopped and turned to face her. You're the most capable person I've met, Naomi. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Her eyes stung. You don't have to defend me. Yes, I do. His voice was soft, fierce. Because you matter. To this company, to me. The words hit her like a wave. To me. Before she could respond, someone called his name. He squeezed her hand once and went to handle whatever crisis needed handling. Naomi stood there, heart pounding, feeling like the ground had shifted under her feet. The following week, Ethan surprised her with an invitation. I have a lake house about 2 hours north, he said. I need to review some contracts this weekend and the city is too distracting. Would you come? We could work during the day and actually relax at night. Every alarm bell in her head went off. A weekend away. Just the two of them. That crossed so many lines. But when she looked at him, really looked, she saw hope in his eyes. And maybe something more. Okay, she heard herself say. Just work, though. That's all. That's all, he agreed. The lake house was nothing like his penthouse. It was warm, wooden, cozy. Windows looked out over calm water that reflected the sky like a mirror. There were quilts on the couch and books on the shelves, and a stone fireplace that looked like it actually got used. This is beautiful, Naomi said. It was my mother's favorite place. Ethan set down their bags. She loved coming here, said it was the only place where the world slowed down enough to breathe. They spent Saturday morning working through contracts at the kitchen table, but by afternoon they'd both had enough. You ever been fishing? Ethan asked. Once when I was little. I don't remember much. Come on. They borrowed a small boat from the neighbor and rowed out to the middle of the lake. The sun was warm. The water was peaceful. They didn't catch any fish, but they laughed trying. Real laughter that echoed across the water and made Naomi's chest feel light. That evening, Ethan cooked. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, but he moved around the kitchen with surprising confidence. You know how to cook? She teased. I know how to do a lot of things. I just usually don't have time. He handed her a glass of wine, or anyone to cook for. They ate on the porch as the sun set. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Naomi couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this peaceful, this present. Can I ask you something? Ethan said suddenly. Sure. Why did you really come back? After you heard me on the phone, after everything? She thought about lying, about saying she needed the money, but they'd promised honesty. "Because I wanted to believe you," she said quietly. "Because I wanted to believe that maybe someone like you could see someone like me as an equal, as a person worth defending. You are worth defending." He set down his glass and turned to face her. "You're worth everything, Naomi." The words hung in the air between them, heavy, true, terrifying. "Ethan, I know we said this was just work, just employer and employee, but I can't—" He stopped, started again. "My whole life, people have wanted something from me. Money, status, access. But you crashed into my car and apologized. You took a job you didn't want to pay off a debt. You defended Roberto. You stood up to me when I was wrong. You're real, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that night in the rain." Naomi's heart hammered against her ribs. "We can't. You're my boss. It's complicated." "I know." He reached for her hand. "But I'm willing to figure it out if you are." She should say no, should pull away, should protect herself before this went any further, and she got hurt. But when she looked at him, really looked, she saw the same fear in his eyes that she felt, the same hope, the same desperate wanting. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too." They moved at the same time. His hand cupped her face, her fingers curled into his shirt, and then they were kissing. It was soft at first, tentative, like they were both afraid the other might disappear. But then it deepened. His arms wrapped around her waist. Her hands slid into his hair. The world narrowed to just this, just them, just the feeling of finally letting go. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "We can stop," he said, "if this is too much." "If you're not ready." "I don't want to stop." She pulled back enough to see his face. "But I don't know what happens next. I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I." He smiled. It was soft, vulnerable, real. "But I'd like to try, with you." They moved inside when the air grew cold, built a fire in the fireplace, sat together on the couch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. They didn't talk much. Just sat in the warmth and the quiet and the newness of whatever this was becoming. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Naomi felt safe, protected, cherished. She should have known it wouldn't last. Monday morning felt different, like the world had shifted on its axis and everything looked new. Ethan treated her the same at work, professional, appropriate. But sometimes their eyes would meet across the office, and she'd see the warmth there, the memory of his lips on hers, the promise of something more. People started to notice, the way he smiled at her, the way she blushed when he walked by. James gave her a knowing look. The receptionist winked, and then Marcus showed up. She saw him through the glass walls, talking to security, pointing toward her desk. Her whole body went cold. Marcus Dean, her ex-boyfriend, the man who'd borrowed money and never paid her back, who'd cheated on her with her supposed friend, who'd called her worthless when she finally found the courage to leave. Security brought him to the lobby. He saw her and smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Naomi, long time. What are you doing here, Marcus? Heard you got yourself a fancy job, working for some rich guy." His eyes traveled over her work clothes, her neat hair. "Moving up in the world, huh?" "I'm working. That's all. You need to leave. Relax. I just want to talk. Maybe get some coffee, for old time's sake." Every instinct screamed danger, but making a scene at her workplace would only cause problems. "Fine. 10 minutes." They went to a coffee shop across the street. Marcus ordered the most expensive thing on the menu. "Of course." "So," he said, leaning back in his chair, "you and your boss. That a thing?" "That's none of your business. Just asking." He pulled out his phone, started scrolling. "See, I was thinking. A pretty girl like you working for a millionaire. People might wonder about that, might think certain things." Ice slid down her spine. "What do you want, Marcus?" "Just some help. I'm a little short on cash. Thought maybe you could spot me. Say, 5,000? $5,000? Are you insane?" "Come on, Naomi, we were together for 3 years. You owe me." "I owe you nothing. Get out of my life. Stay out." She stood to leave. He grabbed her wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to make her stop. "Careful," he said quietly. "I'd hate for certain photos to end up online. You serving him coffee. You two at that fancy gala. You coming out of his building late at night. People love a scandal." "You followed me?" Horror turned her voice sharp. "You've been following me?" "Just keeping tabs. Insurance, you know?" He let go of her wrist. "Think about it. 5,000 and I disappear forever. Or I start sharing pictures and everyone thinks you're sleeping your way to the top. Your choice." He left before she could respond. Naomi sat there shaking, feeling dirty and exposed and so stupid. She should have known. Marcus always came back when he thought she had something worth taking. She went back to work in a daze, tried to focus on emails and phone calls and schedules, but all she could think about were those photos. What people would say, how it would hurt Ethan's reputation. His company. She'd become exactly what his father warned him about, a liability. The scandal broke 3 days later. A gossip website posted photos with the headline, "Tech CEO's Secret Romance with His Help." The pictures showed her serving Ethan coffee, them at the gala standing close, her leaving his building late. The captions were cruel, implied things that weren't true, made her sound like a gold digger who'd seduced her way into a job. Naomi saw it when Mrs. Patel texted her a link. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped her phone. Within an hour, the story was everywhere. Her phone exploded with calls from numbers she didn't recognize. Reporters, bloggers, people wanting a statement. She turned it off and stared at her computer screen, tears streaming down her face. Ethan's office door opened. He looked at her and immediately knew. "You saw." She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Come inside." It wasn't a request. His office felt too small, too hot. She stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, while he pulled up the article on his computer. His face went hard, cold, dangerous. "Who did this?" "My ex, Marcus. He wanted money. I said no." "He's blackmailing you." "He was. I guess he decided to do it anyway." She laughed. It sounded broken. "Your father was right. I'm a liability. I'm destroying everything you worked for." "Stop." Ethan stood, came to her. "You're not destroying anything. It's garbage, lies." "It doesn't matter if it's lies. People believe it. They think that we—" She couldn't finish. The words hurt too much. "Let them think what they want. I know the truth. We know the truth. Do we?" She met his eyes. "Because we did kiss, Ethan. We did spend a weekend together. Maybe there's some truth in it. The truth is that I care about you. That I'm falling—" He stopped, started again. "The truth is, you're the best thing that's happened to me in years. I won't let some vindictive ex ruin that. You have to fire me." "What? No, absolutely not. Your company—" "I don't care about the company." His voice rose. "I care about you." "Then you're a fool." The words came out harsh, mean. She needed him to understand. "I don't belong in your world, Ethan. I never did. Your father knows it, your employees know it, and now everyone else knows it too." "Naomi, you said I wasn't property, that I wasn't something you bought. So prove it." She pulled off her badge and set it on his desk. "Let me go." "I can't." "Yes, you can." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "If you really care about me, you'll let me leave with some dignity, before this gets worse, before I hurt you more than I already have." He stared at her, pain etched across his face. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." She walked out of his office, past her desk, past James, who called her name, past the glass walls where people watched with curious eyes, into the elevator, down to the lobby, out into the sunshine that felt too bright, too normal, too much like the world didn't just end. Her phone buzzed. She turned it back on long enough to call Tina. "Come get me," she whispered. "Please." The days that followed felt grey. Naomi got her old job back at the diner. Mrs. Patel had called the district manager and fought for her, explaining that the gossip was just that. Gossip. They reinstated her with an apology that felt hollow, but at least she had work. At least she had somewhere to go every morning, so she didn't have to sit in her apartment and think about blue eyes and gentle hands and kisses by the fireplace. She tried not to look at her phone, tried not to read the articles that kept popping up, but it was like watching a car crash. She couldn't stop herself. The comments were the worst. People she'd never met saying terrible things about her, calling her names, making assumptions about her character, her choices, her worth. Tina finally took her phone away on day 3. "Stop torturing yourself," she said firmly. "These people don't know you, they don't matter." "But what if they're right?" Naomi whispered. "What if I was using him? What if I—" "Stop, just stop." Tina grabbed her shoulders. "You worked hard, you earned that job, and you fell for a man who saw you for who you really are. That's not using someone, that's being human." Naomi wanted to believe her. She really did. But late at night when she couldn't sleep, she wondered if maybe everyone was right. Maybe she'd been fooling herself. Maybe someone like her could never really fit into someone like Ethan's world. Ethan's world was falling apart. He fired his entire PR team the day after the scandal broke. His father called an emergency board meeting. Investors were nervous. Clients were asking questions. And all he could think about was Naomi. Her face when she'd walked out. The tears on her cheeks. The way she'd looked at him like he'd let her down. He tried calling, texting. She never answered. He threw himself into work. 18-hour days. Back-to-back meetings. Anything to avoid going home to his empty penthouse and remembering what it felt like to have someone care about him. Roberto noticed first. "Mr. Ethan," the old man said one evening, finding him on the balcony with a glass of whiskey. "You're going to make yourself sick." "I'm fine. You're drinking alone in the dark." "That's not fine." Roberto sat down beside him. "Is this about Miss Naomi?" Just hearing her name hurt. "She left. She walked away. Did she? Or did you let her go?" Ethan stared at him. "She said I had to. She said a lot of things because she was scared, because people were cruel to her, because she thought she was protecting you." Roberto's voice was gentle but firm. "But what did you say? Did you fight for her?" "I tried. Trying isn't enough. Not when you love someone." The word hit him like a punch. Love. Was that what this was, this aching, hollow feeling in his chest? This desperate need to hear her voice, see her smile, hold her hand? Yes, of course it was. He'd fallen in love with Naomi Carter, with her strength and her kindness and the way she made him feel human again, and he'd let her walk away without really fighting. "I have to fix this," he said. Roberto smiled. "Yes, you do." The diner was busy on a Tuesday afternoon. Lunch rush. Naomi moved between tables with practiced ease, taking orders and refilling coffee, and smiling even though she felt hollow inside. She'd gotten good at pretending, at acting like her heart wasn't broken, like she didn't miss him every single second of every single day. She was refilling coffee for a regular when the bell above the door chimed. A hush fell over the diner. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Silverware clinked against plates. Naomi looked up. Harold Wilder stood in the doorway. Ethan's father, tall and imposing in his expensive suit, looking completely out of place among the vinyl booths and cracked linoleum. Their eyes met. Naomi's heart stopped. He walked to the counter and sat down on one of the stools, picked up a menu like this was normal, like he came here every day. Mrs. Patel appeared at Naomi's elbow. "You want me to handle this?" "No." Naomi squared her shoulders. "I got it." She walked to the counter, coffee pot still in hand. "Can I get you something, Mr. Wilder?" "Coffee, black, and whatever pie you recommend." His voice was formal, controlled, just like Ethan's used to be. Naomi poured the coffee and cut him a slice of Mrs. Patel's famous peach pie, set it in front of him without a word. He took a bite. His eyebrows went up slightly. "This is excellent. Mrs. Patel makes it fresh every morning." He nodded, took a sip of coffee. Around them, the diner slowly came back to life. People returned to their conversations, but Naomi could feel them watching. "My son is miserable," Harold said suddenly. Naomi's hand tightened on the coffee pot. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" He looked at her directly. "Because you seem to be doing fine. Appearances can be deceiving." "Yes, they can." He set down his fork. "I came here to see what kind of woman could make my son forget everything I taught him, about control, about keeping business and personal separate, about protecting the family legacy." "And what did you find?" He was quiet for a moment, looked around the diner, at the tired waitresses working double shifts, at the families squeezing into booths to share meals they could barely afford, at Mrs. Patel behind the counter, serving food with kindness and dignity. "I found someone who knows what real work looks like," he said finally. "Someone who treats people with respect, regardless of their status. Someone who—" He stopped, started again. "Someone my wife would have liked very much." Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. "Your son is a good man, Mr. Wilder. He deserves someone who fits in his world, someone who won't embarrass him or cause problems." "Is that what you think you did? Caused problems? The news articles are garbage written by people with nothing better to do." He pushed his plate away. "Do you know what the board said after the scandal broke?" She shook her head. "They said profits are up. Client satisfaction is up. Employee morale is up. All since Ethan hired you." Harold's expression softened, just a little. "You changed my son, Miss Carter. Made him remember how to be human, how to care. That's not a liability. That's a gift." "Then why did you tell him sentiment had no place in your world?" "Because I was wrong." The words seemed to cost him. "I spent so long building walls after my wife died that I forgot what they were protecting. I taught my son to be strong, but I didn't teach him it's okay to be vulnerable, to need someone, to love someone. He stood, pulled out his wallet, and left far too much money on the counter. He's coming here tomorrow, Harold said, to apologize, to try to make things right. I hope you'll hear him out. Why are you telling me this? Because everyone deserves a chance at happiness, even my stubborn son. He smiled, small but real. And because I think you might be the only person brave enough to love him despite his flaws. He left before she could respond. Naomi stood there, shaking, the coffee pot still in her hand. Girl, Mrs. Patel said softly from behind her. What are you going to do? I don't know, Naomi whispered. I just don't know. The next day, Naomi arrived at work with her stomach in knots. Would Ethan really come? Did she want him to? What would she even say? The morning dragged. Every time the bell chimed, her heart jumped. But it was just regulars, just normal people living normal lives. By noon, she'd almost convinced herself Harold had been wrong, or lying, or confused. Then, the bell chimed again, and there he was. Ethan Wilder walked into Rosie's diner wearing jeans and a simple blue shirt. No suit, no tie, just him. His hair was messier than usual. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired and nervous and absolutely perfect. The diner went quiet again. But this time phones came out. People started recording. Naomi's hands shook. She set down the plates she was carrying and walked toward him slowly. Ethan, what are you doing here? Something I should have done weeks ago. He took a deep breath, looked around at all the watching faces. Can I talk to you in front of everyone? I need people to hear this. Okay, she whispered. He stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the emotion in his blue eyes. I'm sorry, he said. His voice carried across the quiet diner. I'm sorry I let you leave. I'm sorry I didn't fight harder. I'm sorry I made you feel like you didn't belong in my world, when the truth is— He stopped, swallowed hard. The truth is, my world doesn't mean anything without you in it. Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. Ethan, you don't owe me anything, he continued, not after everything that happened. But I need you to know, you're not a charity case, you're not a liability. You're the strongest, kindest, most amazing person I've ever met, and I'm in love with you. The words hung in the air. Around them, people gasped. Phones kept recording. You don't have to say it back, Ethan said quickly. You don't have to forgive me. You don't have to do anything. I just needed you to know, needed everyone to know. What we have, what I hope we can have again, it's real. It's not a scandal. It's not wrong. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Naomi couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the weight of those words, the truth of them. I love you too, she whispered. Then louder, I love you too, you idiot. He smiled, bright and real and full of hope. Yeah? Yeah. She laughed through her tears. But if we do this, if we try again, no more secrets, no more walls. We do this as equals or not at all. Equals, I promise. He held out his hand. She took it. And the diner erupted in applause. Mrs. Patel was crying. Regulars were cheering. Someone wolf whistled. Naomi laughed and cried at the same time, while Ethan pulled her close and held her like he'd never let go. I missed you, he whispered against her hair. So much. I missed you too. They stood there in the middle of the diner, holding each other, while the world watched and recorded and shared the moment across the internet. By the next morning, the video had gone viral. But this time the comments were different. People called it romantic, beautiful, a real-life fairy tale. The gossip blogs that had been so cruel before now posted apology articles. The narrative shifted. Naomi wasn't a gold digger anymore. She was Cinderella. And Ethan was the prince who'd fought for her. It was ridiculous, over the top, everything Naomi had always hated about fairy tales, but it was also kind of wonderful. Things moved slowly after that, carefully. Ethan took her on proper dates, movies and dinners and walks through the park. He met Tina officially and endured her protective interrogation with good grace. He came to the diner often, always sitting at the counter, always leaving generous tips. They talked about everything, his childhood, her dreams, what they wanted from life, what scared them. I'm terrified of messing this up, Ethan admitted one night. They sat on his balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below. I've never been good at relationships. Never let anyone get close enough. We'll figure it out together. Naomi squeezed his hand. That's what equals do. 3 weeks after the public apology, a strange package arrived at the diner addressed to Naomi. Inside was a car key, a note in Ethan's handwriting. Meet me outside. Naomi rushed to the door. Parked at the curb was the red Aston Martin, the one she'd crashed into that rainy night, completely restored, perfect, gleaming. Ethan leaned against it, hands in his pockets, smiling. "What is this?" she asked. "It's fixed, just like me." He held out the key. "It's yours." "Ethan, I can't. This car costs—" "I know what it costs. I'm giving it to you anyway." He stepped closer. "You crashed into my life and changed everything. This car, it's a reminder that sometimes the best things start with accidents." She took the key, stared at it, then at him, then burst into tears. "These are happy tears," she said when he looked panicked. Nobody's ever given me anything like this before. Get used to it." He pulled her close. "I plan on giving you a lot more." They drove the car together that afternoon, top down, wind in their hair, laughing like teenagers. Naomi had never felt so free, so light, so loved. A month later, Harold invited them both to dinner. Naomi spent an hour choosing an outfit, changed 3 times, nearly called the whole thing off twice. "You'll be fine," Ethan assured her. "He already likes you, he told me so. He also said I was a distraction and a liability. That was before he met you." Ethan kissed her forehead. "Trust me." The dinner was at Harold's house, a massive estate with a circular driveway and manicured gardens. Inside, everything was elegant, expensive, intimidating, but Harold greeted her warmly, shook her hand, asked about her day like he genuinely cared. Over dinner, they talked about everything from politics to music to favorite books. Harold told stories about Ethan as a child that made her laugh and made Ethan blush. He asked about her sister Sarah and seemed genuinely impressed by her scholarship. "You did well raising her," Harold said. "Family is the most important thing we have. You understand that?" "Yes, sir, I do." After dinner, as they had coffee in the sitting room, Harold cleared his throat. "I owe you an apology, Miss Carter." His voice was formal but sincere. "I misjudged you badly. I saw someone who didn't fit my narrow definition of acceptable and decided you must be a problem. But watching how you've changed my son, how you've made him happier than I've seen him in years, I realize I was wrong." "Thank you," Naomi said quietly. "That means a lot. He's lucky to have you." "We both are." Harold smiled. "Welcome to the family." Under the table, Ethan squeezed her hand. When she looked at him, his eyes were bright with emotion. "We made it," he whispered. "Yeah," she whispered back. "We did." On a cool evening in late October, Ethan surprised her again. "I want to show you something," he said. "Come on." He drove them through the city as the sun set. Naomi didn't recognize the route until they turned onto a familiar street. "This is where we met," she said. "I know." He parked in almost the exact same spot where she'd crashed into him. "I wanted to come back here, full circle." They got out of the car and stood on the sidewalk. The street looked different in daylight, smaller, less scary, just a normal place where normal things happened. "That night I was so angry," Ethan said. "Angry about work, about my father's expectations, about feeling trapped in a life that didn't fit anymore. And then you crashed into me and everything changed. I ruined your car. You saved my life." He turned to face her, took both her hands. "You made me remember what it felt like to be human, to care about something beyond money and power and control. You taught me that real strength is being vulnerable, that real success is finding someone who sees you, all of you, and loves you anyway." Naomi's heart pounded. "Ethan, I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I just needed you to know. Next time you crash into me, I hope it's on purpose, because I never want to be without you again." She laughed and cried at the same time, pulled him close and kissed him under the streetlights as cars drove past and the city hummed around them. "I love you," she said against his lips. "I love you too," he whispered back. "So much." They stood there for a long time, just holding each other. Two people from different worlds who'd found each other by accident and chosen each other on purpose. 2 months later, on a bright Saturday morning, Naomi packed the last of her boxes. She was moving in with Ethan, not as his employee, not as his assistant, as his partner, his equal, the person he wanted to build a life with. Tina helped her load everything into the Aston Martin, which Naomi still couldn't quite believe was hers. "You sure about this?" Tina asked for the 100th time. "I'm sure." Naomi hugged her friend tight. "But you're still my person. That doesn't change just because I'm moving out." "Good, because someone needs to keep an eye on Mr. Perfect." They laughed, cried a little, made promises to have dinner every week. When Naomi arrived at the penthouse, Ethan was waiting. He'd cleared space in his closets. set up a desk for her by the windows, put fresh flowers in every room. "Welcome home," he said. Home. The word settled into her chest like warmth. They spent the day unpacking, arguing playfully about where things should go, ordering takeout for dinner, dancing in the kitchen to music from his phone. As the sun set, they stood by the windows and looked out at the city. The same view, but everything felt different now. "You know what's funny?" Naomi said. "What?" "A few months ago, I thought money and success meant you had everything figured out, but you were just as lost as I was. Maybe more lost." He wrapped his arms around her waist. "But we found each other." "Yeah, we did." She turned in his arms, looked up at this man who'd started as a stranger, became her boss, then her friend, then something so much more. "You don't own me," she said softly, testing, teasing. He smiled, that real warm smile that was just for her. "No, but I'm yours." "Yeah," she whispered. "You are." They kissed as the last light faded from the sky. Two hearts that had been broken and bruised, two lives that had collided by accident, two people who'd learned that love couldn't be controlled or bought, only freely given and gratefully received. Outside, the city sparkled with a million lights, a million stories, a million possibilities. But inside the glass tower, Naomi Carter and Ethan Wilder had already found what they needed, each other, and that was enough. Plot. 6 months later, Naomi sat in the diner during her lunch break. She still worked there 2 days a week, not because she needed the money anymore, but because this place had given her a chance when she needed it most, because Mrs. Patel had believed in her, because some roots were too deep to cut. The bell chimed. Naomi looked up, expecting a regular. Instead, she saw Sarah, her little sister, home from college for spring break. "Surprise!" Sarah rushed over and hugged her tight. "I wanted to see where it all began." "Where what began?" "Your fairy tale." Sarah grinned. "Come on. The girl who crashed her car and ended up with a millionaire, that's peak romance novel." Naomi laughed. "It wasn't like that. It was messy and complicated and real," Sarah finished. "I know. That's what makes it perfect." They ordered pie, peach for Naomi, apple for Sarah, and talked about everything, about classes and boys and plans for the future, about how proud their mother would have been, about how far they'd both come. "You know what I learned from watching you," Sarah said, "that you don't have to choose between being strong and being loved, that asking for help isn't weakness, that real love makes you more yourself, not less." Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher." Sarah squeezed her hand. "You raised me to be strong. Now you're teaching me it's okay to be soft, too." The bell chimed again. This time it was Ethan. He spotted them and smiled, walking over with that easy confidence he wore now. Looser, lighter, more at peace. "Hey," he kissed Naomi's cheek. "Mind if I join you?" "Always room for family," Sarah said, sliding over in the booth. Family. The word hung in the air, warm and true and full of promise. They ordered more pie, more coffee, sat together in the worn vinyl booth and talked and laughed and made plans. And Naomi realized something. This was happiness. Not the fairy tale kind with castles and perfect endings, but the real kind, built on trust and honesty and choosing each other every single day. She'd crashed into Ethan's life by accident, but she'd stayed on purpose. They both had, and that made all the difference. The end.